Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So most of you recognize my outfeed table here. If you go back 2 shops ago or even the last shop, this was also my primary work location. It's changed roles in the shop some, and it's primarily just an outfeed table now, but I still do a lot of work here because I have all the work holding capability. Believe it or not, I built this bench almost 250 videos ago. And in hindsight, I wish that I would have videoed that build way differently instead of a whole bunch of short videos. So what I wanted to do here was kind of update this whole thing, put it all into one video, although it is still original footage from my original shop. It's all re-edited and then uploaded here for you in one video, and shows off all the features of this table, which has just been a workhorse in my shop forever. So, and I don't see it going anywhere either. It's a phenomenal table. There are plans for it on the website, and you're welcome to them. They are a free download. The links are in the show notes below. So yeah, without further ado, just keep in mind this is all original footage and a little bit of a younger me. So let's roll the footage and show you how we built this table. So this is the current outfeed table. Has a lot of things I really like. I love the storage. The organization is great. The top's starting to get a little bit beat up, but this top is replaceable. I just think we can do a little bit better. So that's what we're going to do. That's what this project's all about. This would be the left side of the table where I have my CT parking and the boom arm. I love that feature. That little vise that's there is just about useless, so that'll be going away. I have some ideas for a new one though. And the other side of the table has that little hold fast system. I've only used it a couple times when I've needed it. Man, it's been great, but I think I'd get more use out of more storage under that end of the table, so that's what we're going to do. I have a couple ideas there. My power mounts back here as well, so any power I need at the table, it's right there. That'll stay the same as well. So here's the new design and kind of what I have in my mind as to what it's going to look like. I don't have any drawers tucked in there or cupboard doors or anything like that. I use SketchUp totally as just a reference to get me going in the right direction on a project like this. So we'll jump all the way back here to the base. Mostly 8/4 material. Obviously the legs are a little bit bigger. I know I've tossed in kind of some more traditional joinery in there, but I have the domino and I have the big domino, so I think I'm going to go that route. Again, this is more for reference than anything. And of course you got to have the top rails and sides and middle connectors and all that good stuff. So then I added the cabinets in there, and you'll notice the cabinet on the right in this version is the same height as the other cabinets, and I changed that later because I had another thought and idea in my head. I don't know if it's going to work, but you'll be the first to know. CT parking stays. I love that feature, so that's not going anywhere. You'll notice there on the left leg, I think I'm going to put a bench crafted leg vise in on this table. And I went ahead and popped a couple of holes in just for reference marks for a twin screw on the other end. And then we started playing with the top. I think this is going to end up being kind of like a split top Rubo with the center tool tray like that. Probably 3 inches thick. Have dog holes in it, which is why I left the cabinets low. I may toss some T-track in it just because that has worked so well over the years. And then of course I put the miters in it for the table saw. And then in the back I trim that backboard so it fits over the table saw fence. And so yeah, there you go. There's kind of the table in a nutshell. Lumber's on order. And here we go. Hey guys, finally back from California. Got about 165 board feet of maple here. We're going to start breaking down and getting on this Getting on this table, we're going to replace this guy. I'm not going to bore you with all the milling. I'll give you a little bit of it, but I think you all know how to mill. I will give you a close-up view of the lumber though. So there's the shorter pile. Those will probably all end up being top pieces. But I'm going to need some more than that. So there's all the top, all rough milled up. I'll let that sit for at least overnight, check it again in the morning, and then I'll mill down to final dimensions. I've left them about 1/4 of an inch wide, and of course thickness just whatever it takes to get them flat. So I'm super happy with the way that the lumber from Bell Forest turned out. It was great. So I can certainly live with these results any day. So I used the jigsaw to get the rest of the pieces for the base, and just normal milling stuff. I'm going to take these to the bandsaw and get them cut down to rough, run them through the joiner, get them milled up, get them ready to go, and then all these parts can sit for a day. So there it is, guys. There's all the lumber all rough milled to get this table put together. I'm going to let this sit for at least a day, maybe 2. Enjoy my Thanksgiving dinner, and then get back out here. I'll final mill these as I use them. I'll just leave them stickered, let them acclimate to the shop for now. So, hey guys, welcome back to the next video in the outfeed build. We're going to start by gluing up the legs. So we're going to start digging into that pile. Again, I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of glue-ups, but I'll show you when we're all done. So there you go, there's 4 out of the 5 legs glued up. I'll leave them to cure overnight. I'm not in a rush for them. If you remember right from the design, there's a 5th leg that I haven't glued up yet, and that's because this is going to be that front left leg that's going to get the bench crafted leg vise hardware. So I'm actually going to mill one of these down to get my thickness, and then I'm going to do all the mortising in this before I laminate it. It just saves us a lot of work later. So yeah, that's next. Let's get to it. So I'm getting ready to cut the mortise for the leg vise. Initially I was thinking that I was going to be able to just rip this, cut the mortise out, re-glue it back together. But I'm a little concerned with my overall leg width. So I've switched over to an edge guide, an up spiral router bit, and I'm going to route this out, just the edges initially, then I'll hog out the material, and then I'll use that edge with a pattern bit and hog out the rest of the material, and then trim out the corners with a chisel. There you go, guys, last leg all glued up. It's got the mortise in it for the scissor. It's got the holes drilled in it. I'll have to run that other hole all the way through. The smaller hole I'll have to go all the way through. But it's ready for some cleanup and ready for the tenon to go on the end where it'll attach to the top, and we can get rocking with this thing. So other than some cleanup, that should tidy up the glue-ups for the legs. So I think we'll call that a close for this video, and in the next video we'll dig back into that pile and we'll start gluing up the top. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. Going to get going on gluing up the top, but before we do, there's a few things we can do to help us out. We're going to go ahead and create our dog holes for the holdfasts. We're going to route a groove in the front. I'm going to add T-track to the front of this, and then we're going to glue these all up in smaller sections to make it easier to get through the planer. And we're going to use the Festool domino for alignment, and then we'll get it all glued up and rocking. Here we go. So I'm getting ready to glue up the last slab, and if you remember from the design, there's a notch in that back board to fit over the table saw fence rails. I'm not going to cut a notch, I'm just going to cut the board off and domino it in. It'll be fine for that location. So yeah, that's what I'm setting up to do now. So there's the fourth one all glued up. Got the piece cut for the back side to fit on the table saw fence. Should go together pretty well. We'll find out. I do have some help coming over to give me a hand when I run these through the planer. Like I said in the previous video, I'll be using the old planer initially. I have a brand new 735 sitting here, but the knives are good in the old one, so I'll just turn down the noise level for you. So I've marked out where the center groove is for the T-track that's going to sit in my front rail. So we'll get the router set up and get an edge guide put on this, and we'll go ahead and route that and get ready for the T-track. So again, I've set up the router with a straight bit. I used actual T-track to get my depth. I have my center line marked and my center line lined up, and we're just going to route this groove. Here we go. No dust collection because I want to be able to see what I'm doing. So there we go, we got a nice long groove there. The depth is excellent. It's centered on the board, so when we run this through the planer, since we'll be planing both sides, it won't matter, it'll stay in the center. And it's just there for work holding capacity anyway, but that's a nice fit. So there it is, guys. Top's all glued up. It's nice and flat. I'm really happy with the way that it came out. The other slab is sitting back here. Next video we'll get going on the center divider and start working on the base. The plywood is here, so we can start putting the case together. There's still a few more videos in this series. I want to give a big shout out to my buddy Ray, who came over and helped me wrestle these slabs around. I couldn't have done this by myself. Hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. We're going to get going on the tool tray today for the top. Top ended up being about 3 inches thick, so we're going to make this about 3 1/4 inches thick. Then we'll cut some notches where it'll sit down in the top rails of the base and sit flush with the top. But it will fit loose in there, so if we want to raise it up and use it as a planing stop, I can. I don't anticipate using it as a planing stop in this bench much, but should that need arise, I wanted the ability to do that. It only takes an extra couple of minutes to do it this way, so that's what I'm going to do. I got a couple of beautiful pieces of walnut here, And yeah, let's get going on it. So there's the there's the tray. I just need to cut the maple down into individual parts so I can segment it up. I didn't videotape the milling. You guys have all seen milling before, so each one of these is down around 5/8 of an inch. The outside rails are a little bit heavier than that. I'm looking for an overall width of around 2 inches so I can get a clamp through there if I need to. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut up our spacer blocks. Get everything set in here and get this thing glued up. So I got the layout that I want. I'm going to pull this apart, glue these up, a couple of brads. I'll apologize for my compressor kicking on. I got a little slow leak I didn't know about, but we'll get this nailed up. Okay, well there's the top all trimmed up. It was interesting getting these flipped out. My wife came out and helped me turn them over. They are very heavy. The tool tray, I've still got a little trim to do, but that's okay. It's only maybe 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and start locating the legs and start going to work on the base. So I'm starting to set the legs. I went back to my SketchUp drawing and realized that I only left a 1-inch overhang on the edge, and this thing is just so massive, and I wanted the clamping ability on the end. I went ahead and upped that. I'm going to 1.5 inches. I'm going to set them in place. I'm going to mark them out, and I'm going to leave them standing there and get my measurements for my rail lengths and make some notes of that. I know it doesn't show up on camera, but I have notes all over the underside of this table, and there's going to be more of them. I don't want to make mistakes at this point. Well, there's all the rails cut to size, so time to label these parts, dummy proof it for me, get the clamps off of this slab, get the slab out of the way, and start putting this base together. So I'm all set up to cut the tenons on the legs. I've got my dado stack in the saw, and they're all going to be 1.25 inches and 1/2 inch deep, and then that'll leave the tenon that I'll transfer to the table after we're done. So just a last minute reality check before I start doing the final milling on these rails and getting some sanding in. Make sure everything's going to go back together once I do the joinery. So always a good idea. I've used Sharpie to mark all the points, and hopefully it goes back together just like this when I'm done. Okay, so I got the front of the base all clamped up, looking good. Everything's nice and flush. I'm going to be using the Domino XL, shoot large dominoes. Unfortunately, over here in this front left leg where the scissor is going to go, we're not going to get big dominoes in there. So I'll be going back to the 500, shooting some 8x40s. I'll double them up. We'll only be in this one corner. And we're going to have a cabinet down here anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it from a strength point of view. But unfortunately, I'm out of dominoes for the big boy. So through the magic of video, I'll make a trip to my Festool dealer and pick some up. I'll be right back. Alrighty guys, just like I promised back from the store, got our dominoes. These are 14 by 140s. That ought to be enough tenons to hold this bench together. So let's get rocking and let's see if we can get this thing dry fit today. Well, there's the base all dry fit up. The domino just worked awesome. Now I got to pull it apart. I'm going to glue it up in sections. I'll do the long sections first and then glue the ends last. I only have 2 of the long clamps, so I'll have to do those in 2 sections. Of course, all the center grid work and then pull everything together. But before I do all that, I'll go ahead and break it all apart. I've got everything labeled. I'll get it sanded, get it cleaned up, get it ready for finish, and then I'll start the glue up. Stay tuned. So this is a good place to stop. Just as a reminder, those notes you put on your parts, man, do they pay off. I had a note in there to double check the plate on the scissor because I didn't do that earlier, and when I did, it was about 1/16 of an inch off. Easy to correct on the bench, a pain in the butt once the glue up is done. So I just grabbed the router, threw a couple edge guides on it, cleaned it up, and I'm back in business. On the opposite leg, I had also forgotten to drill the holdfast holes. Again, that could be done with the bench in place, but it's just a whole lot easier when you got the leg standing alone. So, dummy proof your parts. Leave those notes all over them. It's okay, they all sand off. Well, there you go, guys. Took me a little longer than I expected, but the first glue up is in place. The extra time it took me paid off because things are right. So, hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. All I'm doing here is just trying to create as many sub glue ups for this base as I can. There's a lot to it. And even in the final glue up, it's going to be a lot, and nobody wants to watch a bunch of video with a bunch of glue ups going on. So I'll just give you a shot when it's all glued up. Hopefully tomorrow I should have all the sub glue ups done, and I got some help on the way, and they'll give me a hand getting the final base glue up. I did sand it all. It's all the base parts with the exception of the center grid, which will be under plywood. But all the base parts are sanded to 180, which I think is more than sufficient for a shop. So, yeah, stay tuned and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, there it is. I got the base all glued up. I got some help coming later. I'll get it set on the floor. And I'll get the top put back up on the bench, get this flipped over so I can mark for the mortises, and try to show you what we're doing there. I'm within less than 1/16 of being completely square in the whole thing. So considering its overall size, I'm okay with that. Got the bench flipped upside down, it's all out of clamps. I've got it positioned on the top. I have the top clamped in place so it doesn't move. I have everything flushed up. It's just looking great there. I also have it equal side to side. So we're going to go ahead and mark out for the mortises. And then I got some help coming to help me get this base off of here. And yeah, we'll start routing some mortises. So stay tuned. So I'm all set up with the sled to go ahead and nibble away that 1/4 of an inch out of the tool tray in the middle so that it sits down flush on the rails. So before I get going on the top, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this. I'll clean it up at the other bench. There it is, that looks like a good fit. So I created this template, just some 3/4 plywood, cut it, glued it back together, put some center lines on it so I can find my mortise. I've got a collar and an upcut spiral bit, and we're just going to hog out the material. So my router bit wasn't quite deep enough to make the 1 1/4 mortises that I needed, mainly because I had a 3/4 inch template that I built. So I've removed the template, I've added a pattern routing bit to the router, and I'll just use the walls I've already created in there to finish up the mortises. Then I'll get over and I'll clean up the tenons. I'm going to round the tenons off, and we should be seeing this thing dry fit. Well, there's the first look with the top dry fit on. It's still loose on here, so I still have lots of little details. The tool tray is still about 1/8 of an inch long. Of course, we got to create holes to lag it from the bottom, and of course, we got to build that cabinet. I'm going to pull these off. I'll probably go ahead and mark the tray and trim that, then pull these off and start marking for that cabinet over there. I got to build that back cabinet before I can put the top on. At that point, I can get the old cabinet out of the way, and I can push this one in and work on it right there. So, stay. Hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. We're going to get going on the cabinets underneath this bench today, and we're going to start down there on the end cabinet because it supports the end of this bench. It helps keep this bench flat. So my original design was to store the planer, my new DeWalt 735, in that cabinet. I was going to use some Rev-A-Shelf lifts to support that, but they're only good for 60 pounds. The planer weighs 90 pounds plus. I think it's a little bit more. So I thought about doubling up the lifts, but that doesn't work because the arms hit. So, still going to utilize the space. I have this spindle sander that normally sits on my miter bench. It's a great way to get it off of that bench, get it tucked away where it's out of my way. On the other side of that cabinet, I'm also going to house my Shapton stones, and I'm going to create a sharpening station over there. And then underneath all of that, I'll create a nice pull-out drawer for other sharpening bits and other storage opportunities that might be there. So stick around. Let's get going on breaking down the sheet goods and building that cabinet. So I got my long rail set up, I got my track saw set up, got dunnage underneath. I don't care if it gets cut, but this is how I break down sheet goods. So let's get after those cabinets. So I got the dado stacked back in the table saw, I got a sacrificial fence on. I've made a couple of test cuts to make sure it works well with this ply. And we're going to go ahead and cut the dados, or the grooves, all the way around. This particular cabinet's going to have a 3/4 inch back in it as well, so it'll get a 3/4 inch groove in the back as well. So, yeah, let's get rocking. So I got the first box dry fit up. It's nice and square. All the dado joints came out great. So just got to get the glue, and I'm just going to put some brad nails in this to keep it together while I build it, or assemble it I should say. I'll go ahead and put some more clamps on it, and then I'm going to go ahead and drive some screws in this. You're not going to see them anyway, so glues and screws. So I've got some help coming to get the table moved into its final position. But I got to mark out for the miter slots. I have to take care of the dust collection, and I have to get those things done. And then I'll get back to the lift with the spindle sander and the sharpening station on it. Got to take advantage of when you get help. So we're going to do those things next, and then we'll get right back into that. Hey guys, so I snuck out a little early this morning before my help got here to help me move the table. I flattened the shelf. I went ahead and mounted the sander to it, and yeah, I'll show you how it works. Alright, so we got the table in, got the saw lined up. It's just a temporary set right now because I have to mark for those rail pegs on the bottom. I've marked out for the slots, and I'm gonna put leveling feet on. I'm just a little bit low, so that worked out well. And yeah, we'll get these grooves cut, get everything in, get it leveled out, and got the pipe leveled, so we'll get this thing put together, and then we'll get back to that sander cabinet. So there I got the dust collection changed out, got a hose hooked up to go to the planer, I got another gate going to the table saw. We're good to go there. Just got to move the table saw out, get the grooves routed, and then get everything leveled off. Well, there it is, guys. Got the table in, got it leveled, got it set up with the saw, got the dust collection all hooked up, I got the CT back in. The whole thing took me a little bit longer than I anticipated today. Big shout out to my buddy Ray, who came and gave me a hand getting all this in again. Man, this stuff was heavy. But now I've got some room to function in here. I got the old table out. So yeah, so we're going to call this a close for this video. When we come back next, we'll start on those other cabinets, get back to the sander cabinet and start trimming everything out. Still got the leg vise to do. I'm still contemplating an end vise, which we might do. But yeah, we'll get there. And of course, I still got to sand and flatten the top to its final as well. So yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. We're going to get going on those front two cabinets. They're both the same height. They are different depths. So as I set up, I'll just patch out what I can when I can. I broke down all the plywood off camera. It's all just oversized, and all I'm going to do is just trim it to its final size, get the dado stack in, get my dados cut, all that good stuff. So yeah, stick around. Let's build some cabinets. So I got all the parts cut to size. I haven't trimmed the top and the bottom to final size yet. I want to double check them against the depth on my grooves. So got the sacrificial fence back in the table saw. I got my dado stack back in, and we're going to go ahead and create grooves for the top and bottom shelves. These will be 3/4 inch top and bottoms in here. Okay, so I switched back to my regular blade. Still got my sacrificial fence on because I'm going to use this little 1/4 inch, maybe 3/16 for the back. So I have to route that groove in each one, or cut that groove in each one. And I'm just going to do it in 2 passes at the table saw and sneak up on my fit and get it just right. So yeah, here we go. So I'm going to use the chop saw to trim the top and the bottom to final length. I've got a stop block set up so I get consistent cuts. Yeah, we're cutting. So there's the dry fit of the small cabinet. I'm ready to glue that up, but before I do, I'll go ahead and get my measurements for the back panel so that that's ready to go. So there's the fit up for the larger cabinet, fits on this side. Got my measurements for the back, so we'll go ahead and start cutting the back panels next. Well, the boxes fit well. Time for some face frames. So I'm going to start batching out parts for drawers. I don't have them cut to final sizes yet. Drawers will be about 4 inches deep overall. Most of it's for fasteners like I did in the old cabinet, so that worked out super well. Normally I build these out of 1/2 inch ply, but I've just got a ton of 3/4 left. It's shop furniture. We're going to go with the 3/4. Well, there's all the drawer parts roughed out. We'll get going on grooving them for the drawer bottoms and figuring out what we're going to do for connection next. Hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. Today we're going to get going on the drawers. In the last video I got all the parts kind of batched out. We get them cut to final size. Like I said, they're 3/4 plywood. It's shop material. There's 1,000 ways we could go on doing the joints, but it's plywood and it's shop material. We're just going to do butt joints, screws. I'll go ahead and plug them and make them look a little bit nicer, but they're going to get full extension glides, and there's just no reason to do anything more elaborate than that on shop furniture. So let's build some drawers. Okay, I got the table saw set up, blades at about 1/4 of an inch depth, a little over 1/4 of an inch away from my fence. Then I'm just going to start grooving these parts until we fit the bottoms. Sneak up on the fit. So I've just got it clamped up, fits square. Now I can get a measurement and cut my bottoms before I go to assembly. Drawer boxes are built. Time to put some glides on them. So while I wait for my other glides to arrive, I'll go ahead and start doing a little screw organization inside these smaller drawers. That's what I designed those drawers for. And there's what the drawer organization will look like for fasteners in those smaller drawers. So I'm still missing the glides for my short drawers. I'll pick those up tomorrow. But in the meantime, there's a couple of details we can take care of, like this piece of walnut for the chop. I'm going to just go ahead and get this milled up and get it set up and ready to go. I'm not quite ready to work on the chop yet, but this is a good time filler in the meantime. So I got my walnut for the drawer fronts. I'll show you a close-up shot of kind of how I've laid it out in a minute. I'm not being overly picky on the walnut because it is shop furniture, but there are some knots and some things that I'm going to have to deal with before we get too crazy here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the epoxy curing on those. Again, it's another good time killer to get that kind of stuff out of the way, so when you're ready to use the parts, they're ready to go. So yeah, here, let me give you a closer view of the walnut. There's the layout for the mortise and the chop. So I've got the festool router set up spiral bit. I got 2 edge guides set up, and I'm just taking shallow light passes. And when I'm done with the first pass, I can just turn the router 180 degrees and it ensures that I'm perfectly centered on this board, and route the backwards pass, and we'll hog out the middle when we're done. Got to go to 1.5 inches deep for the plants. There's all the routing complete. Drawer glides finally arrived. Time to get back to those. We'll get back to that chop when we're done. So now with all those drawers in, we can get back to the chop. Gotta get the pins drilled, and we're ready to install this. So I still got to trim it up, and still a little work to do. Pins are still long, but it sure works well. I've got a temporary screw in here just to function it. I don't want it to fall out, but you can see it just works super well. So I made an error in my design. I didn't account for the size of this wheel. I made a mark on here. It looks like this drawer is about a little over an inch too big as it hits the wheel. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this drawer out. I'm going to resize it an inch smaller. I'll add to the face frame in that area. Other than pulling it all apart and rebuilding the cabinet, that's the only way I can think to fix it. It is shop furniture, so it's not the end of the earth. So yeah, I'm going to do that next. So there's the repair. That drawer front will just be a little bit shorter than the others, but should be okay. It is shop furniture after all. Alright guys, I know we packed a lot into this video with the leg vise in, fixing that drawer. The only real detail we have left are the drawer fronts. The epoxy should be cured by now, so let's get after them. Now that looks a little better. Hey guys, welcome back to the outfeed table build. Still lots of little details to take care of, and the first one we're going to work on today is this new HNT Gordon tail vise. I don't really know that I need it in this table. I'm not sure that I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. It wasn't that expensive, and I don't want to regret it later. Kind of like the T-track in the front. I don't know how much actual use I'll get out of it, but I don't want to regret it if it's not there. So yeah, we're going to work on this today. We'll go ahead and get it installed. It's actually a fairly quick and fairly easy install. But I'll take you along for the ride. So guys, there's the actual vise. This is the dog, and it's on a friction fit. So I mean, it's amazing how well these are actually bit. If you watch real close, you'll see that's actually working its way down in there. Just good fit and finish. All the action is really nice. So to install, we got to route a groove that this obviously fits in. Then we'll route a shelf so it gets a nice, it'll be a walnut wood plate that goes over the top. It's got a slide pin in there, and then it gets a mounting screw in there, and that's all there is to install. So let's get to it. So I got my router all set up again. I've got an edge guide on it, got a 1/2 inch up spiral bit in the router. We're just going to take this in light passes till we get down to the depth that we need, which is around, depends on how thick you want your plate. I'm shooting for between 1.5 inches and 1 9/16. The instructions only come in metric, so you gotta do your own math or work in the metric system. Anyways, that's what I'm going to do, so yeah, let's get after it. So the fit is great. I've got it shimmed up on this end right now to account for that pin that's in this side. This whole thing still drops about another 3/16 of an inch. But I just set it in there so you could see. I still have to clean up this end, and that's what we're going to do next. All squared out and fit up. Again, I have it shimmed to account for the pin, so it will sit deeper than that. Next up, we'll start routing out for the plate. So I went ahead and I drilled the hole in the bottom for the pin. That's this little pin in here that keeps it from sliding around. I did that so that I could set it flush in the bottom, which gave me the height setting for the router for the plate. I've set up the edge guide, and just like the main channel, we're just going to route now for the plate. So the routing for the 2 side passes is done. Just like with the big groove, I'm just going to square off the end with chisels, and then I'll clean it all up with the router plane to make sure everything's a consistent height. So I spent the last couple of minutes dialing the table so I get a perfect fit in that groove on a piece of scrap. I like where I'm at, I like that fit. So now I'll go ahead and get some walnut out and create this little shelf to go in there. I'll be running it through the drum sander until it fits perfectly. So now I got the fit just right. It's just a matter of cutting the groove, trimming it to length, countersinking the screws, and installing it. So I've got it just rough held in place with these screws, and then I'm going to do the countersinks one at a time so I can get these screw heads to fit nicely. And there it is, all installed. We also got the front T-track installed. So I'm going to work a little bit on drawer organization. If you're like me, I wish everything in my shop could be right here. That's just not reality. But these are the things that I kind of reach for the most. So it's a matter of getting them organized in there so that everything has a home. I hate things just randomly thrown in a drawer. I like to foam inlay my drawers. I could go out and I could buy foam, and I could spend a lot of money, but I'm going to let you guys know what I do. I use regular pink insulation. I cut it to fit the drawer, then I lay everything out, and then I use a little trim router, and I trim out the bits, and then I paint it black. Man, it works great. It's worked for me for a lot of years, and a whole sheet of this, 4x8 sheets, like, I don't know, like $8. So, man, I've done a lot of drawers with one sheet. So let me figure out what I want in these top two drawers, or at least the top drawer, and I'll show you what we're doing. So there's my layout of the top drawer. Those are the items that I want to get to the most. So I'm going to go ahead and trace those on, and then I'll show you how I get them routed out. So there it is, all laid out on the foam. I've made some notes on there as to what's deeper, what's shallow, that sort of thing. So next we'll get the little zip router out and we'll start routing that stuff up. Alright, so I got the flush trim router set up. I got a 1/2" bit in it. I'm just going to route out. I got it set for my what I'm calling my medium depths first. So the stuff needs to sit a little bit deeper, but not terribly deep. And I'm going to route all that out first, and I'll change my depth and get either the shallow or the deeper stuff. Change my depth one more time and get whatever's left. And then I'll switch bits to a tight one and come back in and get my corners. Well, there you go. It took me about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not going to lie to you, it's messy, but it's just not something you do all that often, and it saves you a lot of money. So I'm going to get the mess cleaned up, just double check my fits on everything, get this thing painted, and it's ready to go in the drawer. Well, I think we'll call that a wrap for this video. We got the tail vise installed. That thing just works awesome. I kind of showed you what I'm doing for drawer layouts and how I do that. Frankly, I haven't decided yet what lives in the other drawers, and I may spend months determining that. So I know that stuff lives there. The rest of it I'm not sure. So that probably won't end up on video. Still got a drawer to do in the end, and we'll get to that as soon as the weather clears. I can get out and get some plywood. We'll get that drawer done. Still got to sand the top, still got finish to do, so Yeah, stay tuned, stick around, we'll get her done. So I was finally able to get out and get my plywood, so we have all the bits in hand to go ahead and finish this project up. Because of the way that the lifts are and how far they stick in on the inside, we're just not going to be able to put a top on this drawer. So it's going to be more of a pull-out tray, but we'll still get some great use out of it. So let's go ahead and get this project finished up. Just going to apply a couple of coats of General Finishes waterborne finish on it. Well, there you go, guys. There it is. It's all wrapped up. Super excited to have this in the shop. It's really going to help my workflow. So heading back out on the road here in a couple of days for work. So it'll be a few weeks before we get on to the next project. I think the next project we're going to go after that planer stand, and we're going to design it in such a way that it actually hooks up to this T-track on the front. I've got my dust collection sit right behind this table, so it'll tie everything together. So until then, stay tuned, and I'll give you a quick walk around of this. Well, there you go, guys. Thanks for sticking that out. I learned a lot through editing all that together and just how far these videos have come for me. Apologies for the audio quality. I didn't even own a microphone back then. It was all just off of the camera. This was a very complex project to build, let alone video. So this is one I'd like to build again. Knowing what I know today, but you know, that is what it is. So thanks for watching. There is free plans for this table on the website. My contact information and all that is in the show notes. I'm always available to answer questions, or if you want more detail about this particular project, or any project for that matter, I'm happy to help you out and answer those questions. So drop me a line or jump on the forums or whatever you need to do. So until next time, guys, take care.